inspired to make a quilt specifically for Ukrainian refugees. I follow a quilter from the Minnesota area, and she had packets of blue and yellow fabric that we could purchase from her. She did it at a discounted price, so we could make blocks or we could make quilts to help those that had been displaced because of this crazy war. I knew that we were starting to talk about God's work our hands a number of months ago, and I just felt called to lead a team for making a quilt. Well, we had a lot of volunteers that signed a sign-up sheet to help with God's work our hands, and then I reached out to a few others, and I had a team of 10 individuals. It ranged from someone in high school to retirees, so we had a nice group of people. We had people that had been members of our church for a long time, and then we had some fairly new members that had a way to connect and have some fellowship with others in our church. A friend of mine came over and we cut some fabric ahead of time so that when we got started on Saturday, we were able to pull our team together. Some people had quilted before, some people needed a little help just threading their sewing machine, and some people were there just to cut and iron and help the others. And so with that, we were able to finish the top of one quilt. It was just a very, very wonderful day to be able to pull all of ourselves together. And one of the members in my church, she knows of a refugee family that is starting to live in her neighborhood with another neighbor. And so our plans are to get this quilt quilted and then gift it to that family so that they can feel the love of a quilt as long as with God's love, of course. So I feel like God was acting in our souls the whole day. We were putting our blocks together. We were having some good fellowship, talking about our own stories with either quilting or sewing or about the war and that sort of thing. And so God's hand was there to kind of help guide us and keep us on task and get the job done. So I was just really excited that I had this opportunity. I did reach out and used a Thrivent Action Team support to help us to get this quilt quilted and such. And so I'm just excited and ready to do another one.
A high school friend of mine from 50 years ago had a son in the Navy that had just transferred into Virginia Beach area from Japan, and he had a young wife and 3 small children under the age of 4. And a couple of weeks after they had moved into the area, they had just purchased a house. His wife found him lying unconscious in their bathroom, and he was not able to be revived. And James were called to care for widows and orphans in their distress. And certainly this was a time of distress where, the young woman that just moved into the area, maybe had met a couple of neighbors, really didn't know her way around, had the 3 small children to care for, and was just screaming for some kind of a help. And so I went over the next day, and my friend had driven all night with his brother-in-law from the far west of North Carolina. They had arrived early in the morning. I went over that afternoon to see them, try to give some comfort, and also introduce myself to the young mother so she'd feel comfortable calling on me for help in her times of need when my high school friend had to go back home. And tried to stay in touch with her, and as she decided what she was going to do and how she was going to proceed. Fortunately, the neighbors responded to her needs. The Navy did an outstanding job responding, providing help. Some of the sailors came over, were regularly mowing the grass. They hadn't even unpacked the boxes from their move. Some sailors came and helped with that, as well as finishing some painting her husband had been working on. So anyway, over the course of the summer, she decided to sell that house. It was very difficult for her to stay there knowing that her husband had right there in the master bedroom. Fairly quickly, she purchased a home in another part of town that was under construction. She was able to make some changes and have some time to get packed and before she could move. So as it turned out, the project fell on the day of her moving day. I had about 7 people that were going to help, and it was just going to be, I think, overwhelming for her, for all of us to show up and try to help while the movers are moving boxes in. The kids are trying to stay out of people's way. And again, she had a couple of people she had met that were willing to babysit. But through that, she learned how God was caring for her through people around her. Most of them very new friends, perhaps even strangers helping out. That she told me, I planted to start attending church at a new neighbor's church that was nearby. We're about 20 miles away from her new house, so it really wasn't going to be very convenient for her to try to participate. So I feel encouraged that perhaps she came to know the Lord, but that she's been encouraged to begin attending church, church that has very good family and children's programs, where she feels that her needs are going to be met, and then I think she'll learn even more about the love of God for her and for her children.